Hey, folks, thanks for joining me for this episode of the Embellish Podcast, a podcast focused on product stories, product storytellers, interesting brand ambassadors, and anything else we happen to come up with. Whether you're a bourbon fan, a geek, a casual observer, or someone just floating through this channel, hope you find it interesting. If you got here by chance, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Hopefully, it can be found on any podcasting platform that exists. And if you can't find me on a platform, you can email me at embellishpod@gmail.com, and I'll get that taken care of. I also generally live stream the recording of these episodes on YouTube. So if you follow me on any social media platform, you'll know when that's going to be. I also have links on Instagram at embellishpod or Twitter with the same handle. I have a website. It is www.embellishpod.com. That is a place to pick up these links, episode details, and more. Today is September the 7th, and we're doing a lunchtime stream with Eric,
Yeah,
Whiskey
boy.
Mutant, whatever you want to go by. And honestly, maybe I should have just let you do all of the details on this episode, because that's sort of you do that with a high degree of accuracy for Tim Bip on a regular basis.
Yeah, I feel like Perry is just the editor, and I'm just doing the show sometimes.
Well, the upside is there's no editor here. Usually this goes straight to audio later on. Like it's just I'm gonna cut the front end and back end, and we're gonna put it in.
That's awesome.
So
I
you're
appreciate you getting on like lunchtime, because this is like my nighttime. Like
this is not the first time I've done a lunchtime though.
Okay, but it's not even lunchtime your time though. It's like breakfast.
It's not. Yeah, we're in brunch. We're in brunch season.
Brunch time right now. This is a brunch time recording.
I don't live in Nashville, so I don't know if I'm allowed to do brunch. You guys do brunch pretty heavy in Lexington, right?
Oh yeah, it was made for hangovers.
We don't do brunch heavy here in Western Kentucky, in the rural portions of the state that you guys like to forget exists.
Hey, I was from the rural part. I didn't know what brunch was until I moved to Lexington.
No, but everybody knows where Eastern Kentucky is. Like you say Eastern Kentucky, people are like, oh, that.
Oh yeah, okay.
But you say Western Kentucky, and they're like Owensboro, Bowling Green. Like there's two whole more hours of state beyond Owensboro and Bowling Green.
I found out about it whenever I started learning independent wrestlers that were from there. Ricochet, I think, was from there. Let's see. There's a couple of guys in AEW that are from there too. Now I can't remember the names, but yeah. And then I was like, whoa, and then I was like, they have a good basketball team. Like I'm down with it.
We have a mediocre basketball team. You got to couch that in. We live in the state of Kentucky, where University of Kentucky is a blue blood, and University of Louisville historically was a contender, but maybe not so much recently. So you just kind of get overshadowed. Like if we were in, I don't know, like Arkansas, people be like, that's a good basketball team. That's a good basketball team, because there's like one school in Arkansas that anybody cares about. It's like University of Arkansas. That's it.
I mean, I hope UK does better. I mean, we did good all season, then we fucked it up in the end. So,
you'll have that from time to time. My mom actually went to UK for pharmacy school. So,
oh, nice.
Child of an alumnus. I actually lived in married housing as a child. If I'd have stayed, I probably would have joined a street gang. Just realistically,
I could honestly see you with a couple of tattoos on your face. So,
I'm working on it. So okay, so let's talk about that. You have a ton of tattoos, right?
Yeah, I think so. I have probably more than the normal person.
I guess maybe ton's the wrong term. It's not. You don't have anything visible on your face right now.
Oh,
so you haven't murdered anybody. There's no teardrops or whatever. So are you? I always had this mentality of like, well, I got to wait until I find something that I want on my body for the rest of my life. And is that where you live, or are you just like, hey, just do whatever?
Now it took me a few. I actually have. So my first tattoo is on my rib cage that I got right out of high school, and it's prayer hands. Now I'm not the most religious person, but it was a very old school looking design, and I thought, now I lived with my grandmother, like she raised me, and I was a good boy, and I wanted to make sure that, and so my mind was, if I got a tattoo, and I know she knew at the time probably didn't want me to get one, maybe if I got something that she would approve of, it would be okay. So I got this old school prayer hands on my rib cage that look absolutely atrocious. I mean, horrible. I think the guy that did it had one eye. There's lines blown out and everything. But after I got used to it, and I was like, this really isn't that good, I decided to only get something when I've thought about it for a very long time, and I knew that I would enjoy it. So
Mhm.
that was the one regrettable one that I have, I think. And it's not even like a horrible, like, freaking whatever on there, but it's prayer hands. I'm not a religious person. The design isn't the greatest. It's just kind of an old school black and white prayer hands. And I did it because I didn't want to get in trouble, but I wanted a tattoo so bad that I went through that
Mhm.
just to get something I didn't like. But I thought my grandmother would be like, "Oh, that's nice," and she still didn't like it. She was like, "Are you insane?" And then she finally got used to it. And as I got older, obviously I was an adult and I was able, but I think I was like barely like
Mhm.
graduated out of high school or something like that. Then something like that.
Yeah, and so and if you're interested in finding out any more about Eric's religious proclivities, just go over to patreon.com. Subscribe to This Is My Bourbon podcast at the appropriate tier to get pregame chats. And this last set, the ones that were posted on Monday of this week, you'll get an understanding of some
Yeah,
religious systems there.
it got heavy. You
And
never
it
know
was,
what's going to be on the pregame chats. I'll be honest.
we won't go into that in depth, but I sent Perry a message on the side. I was like, "Hey, you guys ever want to like just put up a meeting where people just talks about what they believe? We'll do a private one. We'll just sit around
Yeah,
and chat because I love those conversations." And it was I'm akin. We're
yeah,
similar spirits in
yes,
some of the mindsets that existed there, but it also gets super touchy. And whiskey
right.
people are already touchy about whiskey. We don't need to
No, they're touchy
shake them
about a
on
lot of
religion.
stuff. That's the truth.
They're very precious about a lot of things. I had maybe a month ago, I had a rapper on that he began sort of as a Christian rapper and now is just, he does his own thing. A lot of spoken words, super interesting guy,
Yeah,
has a coffee thing, he's sort of into whiskey. And people get a little off when you start talking about religion and whiskey at the same time.
yeah.
But it's a little thing. It's a little thing. So how did you end up on the podcast? So you're on a podcast. You're on This Is My Bourbon
I
podcast.
am.
How'd you get here?
So yeah, I am the co-host on This Is My Bourbon Podcast. You have had the creator of the show and host Perry on your live, which I will say go back and watch that. That was a great one. I was actually at work listening during the night when that one was on, and you all went for like 3 hours, and it was a great conversation. But yeah, like, so I had been friends with Perry for a while, and you know just a fan of the show. And we had a meetup, like this little, like not like, it wasn't the size of the one that we just had where you were there. It was a little smaller, and they did a live show, him and Swan. And I got up there with them to do a pairing, and I felt like we had a good little thing going. And so after that, it was like Swan was going to be leaving to do some he had a job and he's going to be moving, and so Perry was going to need some help. And so he asked me, which I will say, out of anything I've done whiskey related, whether it's been a pairing or a reel, a video, anything, like, that's probably the best, like, compliment I've ever got, is for somebody that you listened to for so long and that you kind of asked advice about bourbon or whiskey, asked you to join in on the show that you were a fan of.
Mhm.
And the fact that he wasn't like, we only record at this time, and he knew that I was night shift, and like, my kids' schedules were busy, and so he was like, yeah, we'll figure out a time when we can record, and it'll work. So I will say, like, just getting that out there, that I do appreciate everything Perry has done to let me do that, because I feel like that's kind of my favorite outlet at the moment. And he took a chance on me. And he just, now he doesn't edit my cuss words, and I love him to death. But yeah, it was just, I knew Perry, and he kind of knew that I was probably somebody who didn't care to get on the mic and be funny, but I was also serious at times and stuff like that. So he gave me a chance, and it worked out, and here we are. So
And So it feels like, at least from being a listener of the podcast before I knew either one of you guys, it felt like a more of an invitation to be a part of a thing than it was to fill a seat. Because sometimes you're just like, I
Yeah,
need somebody to take the place of the person that was already there.
right.
This felt more like I want you to be an additive part of what's going on.
Right, and there was always like, Swan always had a mic there ready to go if he was ever in town or if he wasn't working or something like that. So it was more of an extension of the show as opposed to I'm just coming in and I'm the new Swan, I guess you would say, or something like
Mhm.
that. It was, and now, Swan's kind of changed some stuff around and he's on the show a little bit more. And I love it when we're all three on there. But yeah, it was just a invitation to sit down and have some bourbon and talk for a couple hours as opposed to you're coming in here. I want you to be this person, blah, blah, blah. It was honestly just an open invite. And luckily he didn't lock the door after the first episode and that I was on, and I'm still there.
Yeah, he didn't give you the boot. Do you ever find
Right.
yourself like looking at this like podcast YouTube event thing and just be like, man, this is all just ridiculous as hell. Like the fact that people are interested in this. Do you ever find it like,
I do. I'm very it shocks me all the time just getting a message that says like, "Hey, I listened to the podcast and like what you said was, it made me laugh," or "I tried that pairing and it was great." It blows my mind. It blows my mind when Perry's like, "Hey, we got this sample sent to us that we need to review," and I'm just like, the fact that people like are like trusting somebody like me to like give this, and luckily, Perry lets me pretty much say what I want. Like
mhm,
I try to be as nice as I can, but sometimes you just have to tell it, there's no a way. Perry is great at taking a bad note or something and
mhm.
spinning it in a way that's like something that they could use as like what am I trying to say? Like they could use that as advice and it's like friendly advice
Yeah.
as
Finding a
opposed to
redemptive quality in what's
yes,
going
yes,
on and
yeah,
trying to
like
make sure that
okay.
it's not all bad news.
And here I am, like I let stuff fly and I'm just like, this sucks. Or like this tastes like, you know, the wood that got stuck in between a old Nike. Um but and that's probably not anything that they're going to hear and be like, you know what, we should definitely change the Nike note in the bourbon. But
Mhm.
luckily, they know Perry's kind of the main guy and I'm the co-host, so
Yeah.
they probably find it comical or something. But
I
but
mean,
yeah, he's
it can be informative, and I think there's an appreciation that has to be there. Like if you were a solo voice and all you ever did was shit on whiskey,
right, right,
people are not going to listen. But if you have this relationship where you have one person that's finding a redemptive quality, the other person that's just speaking straight, you can take that. I think if I was, if
yeah,
I owned a brand, I'd be like, okay, look, these people are giving legitimate feedback. I see what this person's doing. I see what this person's doing. But if all I ever heard was like, that guy just craps on everything,
right,
it may be different. So I think it's a
yeah,
good foil and it's a good maybe tension between what he does and what you do.
hmm,
And I find myself like similar to Perry whenever I hate giving tasting notes because I think they're pretentious as fuck. They're just
yeah,
super pretentious. The idea that like someone should listen to what I have to say, but even if I don't like it, I try to identify what the flavor is. And maybe I don't like the flavor of old leather,
yeah,
but someone else might like that. And so it's not necessarily a recommendation. There's very few things I'm like, nah, don't drink that at all.
yeah,
There's a few things recently that have gotten that place, and it's like maybe I just won't talk about it at all.
yeah.
But it's more because I don't have to like everything,
No,
but somebody might like what I don't like, and
right,
so I'm trying to like walk that line. But it also
yeah,
puts you in a position where you can't just say this sucks.
yeah.
Like if you're trying to walk that line.
And yeah, and I think that's what's entertaining and informative about our reviews. And hopefully somebody listening to this is like, I'm not going to listen to that. That guy just says everything sucks. I do not say everything
No, no,
sucks.
no. That if that's the impression I made to anyone
No, no,
who's
no.
listening, there's only
I
13 of them, so don't worry. There's only
yeah.
13 folks that are going to listen to this.
It's
Uh,
not every
yeah,
review is this guy says
no.
this
Most
and
of the
he's
time
on.
they're really solid, and you get an
Yeah.
idea of what was it that Matt was like? Was it birthday cake? I think is the ones you
Yeah.
guys threw out there, and they're like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's helpful, but you're not afraid. You don't
Right.
pull your punches.
I think
And
it's
maybe
more I think it's more Perry is great with words, and he can explain it in like the way that you would expect
Mhm.
a professional bourbon review to sound like. And then you've got me who maybe don't even I might not even understand the word, or I don't know the finish or something, but I can say something like, "Oh, that reminds me of, peanut butter and jelly sandwich." And somebody's going to be like, "Okay, like I know what a
Yeah.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich sounds like." So you kind of get you get one review, but you get like two doses of a review, two styles of a review. You get the guy who knows what he's doing, and you get the guy who's kind of the guy who's buying snack cakes in a gas station and pouring whiskey over them. I mean, so you get a lot in the
Right.
podcast.
And that's what makes it, I think, approachable, is that if you're a budding whiskey nerd who hasn't got to the point to where you're, thinking about buying an ascot, then you've got some information. And if you get all the way up to where you're actually wearing an ascot already, then maybe you kind of run on some scale
Yeah.
of Eric to Perry,
Mhm.
where you're at. But more people, to me at least, connect with that. But
Yeah.
so shifting to you specifically, right? So
Okay.
you're Whiskey Mutant on
Yes.
all social media
Uh-huh.
platforms. How did Whiskey Mutant become a thing?
Let's see. Whiskey Mutant became a thing when I just decided that I wanted to share. I mean, kind of like everybody else, you just want to share your stuff. You want, I don't know, like so I thought I've been thinking about this because I thought you were going to ask that, and I was like, "What is my answer now?" Because before it was just like, I thought it was fun to pair stuff, and I just thought, we're all pairing everything, so I want to make an Instagram, and then it got to the point, where what am I doing here? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
we trying to prove? But it was just I saw all these Instagrams, and it was always kind of similar stuff, the review, the nice picture of a bottle, and it's kind of still like that. But I always found myself getting off work and wanting to come home and have a pour bourbon, but I love like donuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get a donut, and I would have a donut and some bourbon. And I was like, man, like this is really good. Like this is great. And I'm like looking, and there's like one account, it's like whiskey and donuts. And I'm like, oh, they're pairing, putting donuts. So I was like, so there are people on here doing this stuff. And I was like, that's cool. And then I also love anime.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I would be like, what anime am I going to watch this morning when I get home from work? And what am I going to pour to have with it? And I was like, I don't see any anime in bourbon. And I was like, okay, here we go. And so I just kind of like made the name Whiskey Mutant because it was like comic books and like anime. And like I wanted it to just be something that wasn't like the same the same type of name everybody has, just
Mm-hmm.
spun in a different way. I was like, what is, and I wanted it to be, I come from like, punk music and different things. And it's like, I got to be a little different. Like, different is good, blah, blah, blah. It's not always good to be the same. So I was like, Whiskey Mutant, that sounds kind of cool. Because I was watching X-Men or something like that. So I just did that, and I started just posting like some of my pairings, mainly donuts in the beginning, and then pairing like movies and anime and comic books. It was just all over the place. Like it was like to the point where it's like, if I'm going to do this, like I need to kind of commit to like something here. So it was like, that's kind of when I started doing snacks and just sticking to that niche. But I would still like post like Anna Monday. I used to do that all the time. Like what goes with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the thought of pairing. Like no matter what anybody says, like you're always pairing your whiskey. Like whether it's with a cake or whatever, if you sit down and you're like, I'm going to have a nice relaxing time by myself in my couch, and you think about what bourbon you're going to drink because that makes you feel good, you just paired your bourbon with your relaxation time.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the theater and they have a bar and you do it the right way and you don't sneak samples in like I do, you look at that and you go, what am I going to drink while I watch this movie? And you just paired. We're always pairing our whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
You go over to your friend's house, you want to take a bottle to make them like either feel impressed or like something they've never had. You just paired your hangout with a bourbon. So I just love the thought of pairing, and I just wanted to kind of focus on that. So it was kind of just like pairing everything, I guess, like, like I say, but mainly now it's a lot of snacks, pairing snack cakes and cookies and
Mm-hmm.
uh candy, anything. And, there's so many more people pairing stuff too. If you want to pair a horror movie and a whiskey, go check out my buddy Whiskey Mork. Like, he's doing that. Like, if people are fucking pairing their shoes with bourbon now, I'm like, okay, this has got to stop a little bit. I don't know about this one, but but pair everything. But that
But
was
are they
it.
drinking it out of the shoe?
That's the question. But yeah, it was just like, I feel like I've always wanted to entertain people. And whether it was growing up being goofy and making my own jackass videos, like, you would expect nothing less. I know you would. One of my buddies broke their ankle trying to skateboard down my basement steps at Grandparents' house, and I pressured him to it because I wanted to film it, and I legitimately caused my friend to break his ankle. But yeah, making jackass videos, eventually being in a hardcore metalcore band. It's like, I always want to entertain. I just I wanted to get out on my own. And so I did the career I'm doing now really early. So I never got a chance to really say, hey, I'm going to do this, do something fun as a career. So now it's kind of just, and that's why I think I'm probably one of the worst Instagrammers that I associate with, because I don't have time. Like, I can't dedicate hours to liking everybody's stuff and reposting everybody's things. And you see people, and it's like, and that's one thing. Another thing I'm thankful for with the podcast is it gave me something else to focus on, because I can't focus on Instagram 24/7, and I was kind of using that for a while. And you can kind of see, if you go back in my post, you can see a shift from when I started podcasting to when I was just primarily on Instagram, because I was putting in all this stuff. But what for? It wasn't my career. I'm not making money off this.
Right.
I have a good career, so I'm not going to jeopardize time with my family and work to focus on an Instagram page. I'm not going to spend an hour reposting stuff that I care nothing about, because, in order to get a big, I stopped worrying about followers. I think we talked about this before, and I just started having fun with it. So now it's fun promoting the podcast, and I basically have this small group of people that I just want to get a good pop from, like you and the people in the chat, and then our group chat, and then people on Instagram. I just want, if I make a reel, I'm like, what is John going to think of this? Or what is, Perry going to laugh at this? Is Whiskey Mork going to think this is funny? But I'm not out to be all right, this is going to go viral and let's see what happens. I'm not going to share everybody's post on my story that I could care less about, because I'm trying to get a follow, or I'm trying to get a like or something like that. I'm just not doing it. And I feel like, as the term influencer, I feel like that's bullshit. I don't think that, I think everybody is on Instagram as a whiskey entertainer. They're entertaining. And maybe that's just me, because I'm kind of in the know. So you're not actually influencing me.
Right.
You're more entertaining me, as opposed to, maybe I guess you are influenced, but like pairing, we're all influencers. If Billy Jack,
you're not wrong,
across the street sends a picture to you and you go buy that bourbon, he just influenced you.
Yeah, and I think because I had this conversation with Chris Blattner from Urban Bourbonist around the influencer tag, and it's got this dirty taste to it now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an influencer. No, I mean, anybody who posts anything becomes an influencer. And,
Exactly.
and this becomes the kind of the through line is, I haven't bought Hidden Barn Batch 1 yet, because I've been influenced by a number of people that I trust.
Right.
But you went into it knowing what people were saying. Were you influenced to buy it because they were saying it was bad? Were you influenced to there's some degree of influence that happens somewhere.
Yeah.
So you are, but it's not what you're trying to do.
Right.
You're not living as an influencer. You just happen to be one,
right,
by the nature of what you're working on.
I think we all are. I just hate when it gets like these are, I've talked about it, they did an article, the top influencers or whatever. Those guys and girls do great content. They entertain me. I just feel like influencer now is just it's just whatever. It means nothing. If you introduce yourself to me as an influencer, I may kick you in the balls. Like,
Look, you're gonna get kicked off YouTube, man. Come
oh
on.
no, sorry, I just got the show banned. But
Guess
seriously,
what? They don't ban you on YouTube. They just demonetize. And
oh
I'm not
shit.
monetized, so
Oh,
no worry.
okay. But yeah, like I want to be entertained,
Mhm.
and I don't want to feel like I don't want to be like an influencer. I want
Yeah.
to entertain you, and I would love to give advice on pairings and stuff like that. But like I feel like the being an influencer, like if you are a really, really good influencer, there's a good chance you probably peer pressured somebody into doing it and you didn't influence them, you maybe made them feel bad.
Right. I mean,
And that's
you're exploiting some emotion.
right,
If your goal is to be an influencer, you're either exploiting somebody's fear of missing out, somebody's not wanting to be, cast as a person who can't participate,
right.
whatever that happens to be. You guys, and this is a similar path for me and for a host of other people. Is like I'm interested in the community of it, right?
Yeah,
Exactly what you're talking about is like there's this group of people that enjoy what I'm doing. I am in the same vein. Like I have a good career other than this, and when this ever becomes not fun, it just won't be a thing for me.
right.
Like I'll maintain the relationships I have, but I'll be like, oh, I guess I'm not going to do a
Right.
podcast anymore. Why would I do this?
I would love to do this for my career. It's just
Mhm.
I know at this point in my life with what I got going on, a family, a career, I can't I can't take a chance on just
Right.
doing that. You know what I mean? Like I have to do what I feel like I can do, and the fact that I get to be on a podcast every week and let, you know, share my advice or like my thoughts and do that, like that has fulfilled so much to where I don't feel like I have to be on Instagram anymore like all the time. I love my Instagram. I love what it's brought. I love the people I've met through it. I love helping people pair, but I know my limits and I
Mhm.
know how much time I need to spend on stuff to where I feel like I've finally figured out how to balance it all and stuff like that. And like you said, I don't want drinking whiskey and dunking, fudge rounds in it to ever not be fun.
Mhm.
Um, so I
That's what
don't,
would scare me about making a career out of it is that if you make a career out of it now, like, do you get pure joy from the job that you have, or is it
right.
a means to a lifestyle that you want to have? Like,
Yeah. I mean,
and
I feel like maybe it's I think you can tell the people who honestly enjoy it.
mhm,
The people who have made a career out of it and you see their videos, you see them having fun. I think they enjoy it. And I think you see them have just as much fun when they're out and about and they're not actually having to make the content too. Like, I
mhm,
think that's when it separates from job to,
yep,
they're still having fun drinking bourbon. They don't have to be making content out of everything, and they're going to enjoy a pour with people, and then they're going to go back and start making some more content. But I think you genuinely can just tell. I think you can
yeah.
tell the people who are having fun and making a career out of it, and it hasn't changed.
Most of the people that I see, or at least I feel like that are really enjoying it, even when they're creating content, are the people who are either not making any money or the people who are bivocational with it, where they're making a little bit of money off of this thing, but
Yeah,
they're also doing another career, and so it still stays fun. And I've seen people that are sole producers; that's what they do for a living, and you can tell whenever they want to take time off, you almost feel guilty for it because like I've worked hard to build this following, to build this channel, to build this persona,
yeah,
but I need some time off because also being on 100% of the time sucks.
yeah.
And you don't get time off. Well, you take a vacation, then people, oh, well, they're not doing, like we support you on Patreon or we watch your videos or we're
Right.
followers. Like there's this responsibility that comes along with it that just sounds awful.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you've got a following like that, like they're going to understand when you can take time off or need a
Mhm.
vacation or something like that. So I don't know. I think it's just everybody being genuine. The people who
Mhm.
support you being genuine, who understand if you haven't posted in a week, like they don't automatically
Yep.
think you just died. Like, and then the people, if you're putting out podcasts every week and you're putting out bonus content and you're like, you know what, I want to take 2 weeks off. People should respect that. And I feel like
Should is the key word though,
should,
right?
but
And I challenge like the so I'll take the junkies specifically, right? Like those guys, this is their job now.
Yeah.
and you can tell they're having fun. But I can also see, I Patreon them. I don't know if you do or not, but I can see the reaction that comes, the entitlement that comes from the people who are Patreon, who are giving them money. If they don't have enough bottles per year, if they don't make enough episodes, they don't do these things, they go into these environments that are closed and just shit on them for a while. And that's like, that puts you in a real weird place for something that was a passion and a fun thing, that if you don't continually feed the beast, is the beast going to turn on you? Now,
Right.
there's that core group. You're right. There's that core group of people who are like, no, we get it, man. Like, it's okay. But often that core group is smaller than everyone else who's just there
Right.
for the bottles or whatever else.
Yeah. And it's just like being like a big nerd and like being a fan of like Star Wars and like wrestling, you see toxic fans in the community and stuff like that. And I mean, I see it in bourbon too. It's just like, not everybody, it's very tight. Everybody's usually, close and all that, but like there's going to be those people. And I don't know, it sucks. It's like there's nothing that you can like that you're ever going to like find a group of people that all are good and agree. And like, there people will turn around and shit on it just as fast as they'll tell you like, hey, great, like, I love these pairings. Direct message though, you're ruining whiskey, please stop.
You
It
bought it. You can
happens.
do whatever the hell you. And I
It's
know, like,
true.
you bought
It's
the whiskey.
true.
You can do whatever you want to with it. If you want to pour it out on the ground,
Yeah.
if you want to fill it halfway full of horse piss and drink it, that's your option. I mean, you shouldn't do that. That's unhealthy. But
Yeah.
it's a
I
possibility.
honestly, like, I know I can't make a career out of it, like, right now, unless I just won the lottery and I paid off all my bills and my kids'
Mm-hmm.
schools and all that stuff. But, just getting a sample sent to you, whether it's from somebody who supports your page or from a distillery or anything like that, I think if that happens, you've made it worth it. Like, just
Right.
getting something almost like a gift saying, like, hey, I appreciate what you do. Try this, pair this or whatever. So I think I've got that, and I think if I shut Whiskey Mutant down right now, I would be okay. As long as Perry doesn't kick me on the podcast, then I won't have anything to do.
So this is the recipe for Eric being sad, is if Perry kicks you off the podcast. So
Oh
we'll
yeah,
make sure he does that. So I'm going to rewind just a little bit. You're talking about pairing with different things, right? So you
yeah,
paired whiskey with episodes 1 through 8 or 9 or whatever of Star Wars. It's 9, right? 9.
I did.
And then you also did Solo, and you
Uh-huh.
did Rogue.
Uh-huh.
Where's the pairing for Mandalorian or Boba Fett or Obi-Wan? Like,
Oh,
we rewatched these episodes. My kids, like, I did the parent thing. Like, once my daughter was old enough, it's like, all right, now we're gonna watch them in chronological order, not release order, in the the
yes.
actual world order. And so I was like, oh, I forgot Eric did this. And so I go back through them, and I'm like, all right, let's follow the
Oh
whiskey.
man, that's way
right?
back.
Right. Yeah, that's way back, but I knew it was there. So I followed, and it hits. But
I don't think they were out then, so I need to
they're
do
not.
this
But you
again.
got to finish it. Come on.
I know. I gotta do Clone Wars too. Gotta do the cartoon.
No, I didn't. Well, I didn't catch any of the cartoons, but I only just finished Clone Wars, like, I don't know, myself, like maybe a month ago, because I
Dude,
never went back and watched them. And I got kids that weren't super interested in it, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time watching other things that were far worse.
Right.
But then they were like, oh no, like we'll watch this now. We
Hmm.
like Star Wars. And so I'm like, all right, now we can
That's a
get
good
into the
idea.
Clone Wars and Bad Batch and whatever else we need to get through.
But yeah, it's so fun to do that too. It's like you just pick out like certain notes that may remind you of the movie,
Mhm.
or like maybe just the look of the bottle that reminds you of something in the movie. It's fun. Like, I really hope, if you're listening and you don't like I said, you're pairing whether you know it or not.
Yep.
But like, take like an extra like 5 minutes, and if you're going to watch a show or a movie, and be like, you know what, this bottle reminds me of this character, or like, I always feel this note, or taste this note, and it reminds me of this color or something, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
color that's the main color of whatever's going on in the show, your favorite race car or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just fun. Like,
Yep.
I think, if nothing ever comes out of Whiskey Mutant, it's somebody said keep whiskey fun. Like, it's just, there's too much bullshit, there's too much seriousness going on, and it's, keep whiskey fun. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. And I think that you hit on something in there. Tasting color.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a thing that everybody does, but nobody highly talks about it, right? It's not that you're actually tasting that color; it's just a taste reminds you of a specific color, and I think it's pretty prevalent because I've said it before when I'm around friends, doing a local tasting or whatever. I'm like, this just reminds me of this color, and they're like, wait, you taste color too? Like, because it's a weird thing to
Yep.
say. Like, I'll taste a color. Like,
Uh,
what does blue taste like?
yeah. And that was one of the things I think we talked about a lot on the podcast when I first started was like stuff just hits me like when I smell something or I taste something, like a color pops into my head. Yeah, you're right. It's not like I associate the color with something else. Like it's not like blue tastes like fucking hamburgers, but like, but
Does blue taste like Cookie Monster?
yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, purple. When I taste or smell and it hits me with a purple, I see cotton candy and I see grape.
Yep.
So it's stuff that kind of has that same color. If I taste orange, it's always going to be. I don't know. I don't necessarily think of like a citrusy fruit when I taste orange.
You
I
taste
think,
of artificial orange, like popsicle orange.
like a freaking Tootsie Pop, like the
Yes.
orange Tootsie Pop. Like I see that when I orange. So it's just stuff like that. Yeah, but yeah, some people are like, "What? Like you just tasted friggin' whatever? Like how
Right.
do you know that?" No, I didn't taste that. I tasted something that reminded me of that. I just can't find the words to say it. So
It's triggering a core memory of some type, and that's the
yeah,
thing that people like. If I've heard people talk about this before. Like, oh, this tastes like red currant. Well, what does red currant taste like? Have you
right.
ever had that in your life? And you're trying to figure out what that is, or this is finished in a VDN barrel. What does VDN taste like? I don't know what that. Like
Yeah,
you don't know what you don't know, but you do know what you do know, and so you
yeah,
taste through those things. And the thing that I appreciate the most about like going down this pairing route is that if you go into the wine world, it's just an assumed expectation that you're going to pair it with some food at some point in time,
and dirt,
whether it's
right? Don't they
yeah,
taste dirt and stuff
was it
too?
terroir? Yeah, like they're
Yeah,
trying to taste terroir, but they're actually trying to get to like, does this go good with chocolate or nuts, or does it
right.
go with fish or with steak or with salad? Like that's a big part of it. But when you talk to whiskey people, they're like, no, we don't pair things. But you're exactly right. You're usually pairing with an environment or an
Mm-hmm.
experience because you're gonna go drink with your friends, and so you need
Yeah,
something that is maybe low proof, not going to beat everybody up, or you're tasting with nerds. And so you try to bring your biggest, strongest, coolest bottle. Like you're matching to the event. Why are we not talking about food? And there's this thread that may be happening where maybe there needs to be a pair off between an Eric and a Peggy No Stevens,
oh
like
my
this
god,
is like,
I've not had one post shared to me so many times than Peggy's post of her dipping that cookie in that cocktail or whatever it was, and I'm like, people are like, "Did you see this? Did you see this?" I'm like, 15 people have shown me this. I've been tagged in this 5,000 times.
right. And
But
then, some people afterwards are like, I've got to send it to him now because I know other people are. But
yeah,
it's two completely different approaches, right? And one is very different than the other. And that's where pairing can go.
she's a professional. She's like legit. Like
Is professional the right word there?
I
I
don't
mean she's
I
maybe.
don't know. I feel like she's made a career out of that. Like
Mhm.
so I would call her a
Well, she's
pro at
made a career out of whiskey, but the whiskey pairing I feel like has been more recently, and like
okay.
cooking with whiskey and pairing with
Right.
whiskey. Like it's not it's a different environment, and there's room for everybody at the table, right? Like
It
there's
would be a
that's not a
hilarious sitcom with me and her on a show together and like
I think that it is gold content,
yeah.
absolutely golden content that this should happen because I don't think that I've never had one conversation with this human being in my life, and I'm just running off of like social media personality, what I expect. But I feel like number one, she would take it seriously, and number two, not like seriously bad, but like
No, she would have
your
fun with
pairing,
it.
she
Yeah.
would take seriously enough to like, okay, no, hey, like this is really good,
Yeah.
or here's where I think you went wrong, right?
Yeah.
And it
I
might be
would
a
love
place
that.
where,
I
yeah,
would love that.
I'll buy tickets to this show wherever
'Cause
the show is happening.
I'm the person that it takes a lot to like really like piss me off and make me feel bad. And
Mhm.
usually it has nothing to do with food or whiskey or something like that. Usually when you get personal, that's when I'm like, let's square up. But but if somebody's like, you're not going to make me mad if you're like,
So
I
you're
can't.
so hold on. I gotta ask this. So you're saying if Peggy Stevens went personal, you would square up with her? You're like, square up, Peggy.
I'll square up with anybody if they get personal. If they take my family into it or something like that, they're like,
Look, I know that would never, ever in the real world happen.
somebody's going to clip all that, put
But
it together.
that's fine. And there's only 11 people. Dramhound is here. He's watching. He's got some
Somebody will
comments in
share
it.
that with Peggy.
But like I know I have to clear my schedule for this event just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case.
No, but what I'm saying is,
I understand.
like,
yes.
yeah, I love criticism. I love positive criticism. I love negative. Like, you're not going to make me mad if you send me a message that says I ruined whiskey and that I can't pair worth shit. I'm probably going to use that as content. Like, I'll just warn you now.
You're now going to be like, oh well, guess what? I have to talk about this in front of people.
I'll do everything but say your name out loud. But I would love to have like something like a legit like sit down, not even like a competition, but just a whole like pairing. And I think Perry may be working on it. And it's
the name of the event now is Eric and Peggy Square Up.
we make a really like UFC style like poster too. Like,
I don't know. We got to go like 1980s wrestling. I think.
Okay, I'm down with it.
I think that's what it's got to be. I think that's appropriate. And you've got a wrestling background. You can appreciate that.
Right.
We'll make this happen. If you need if Perry, if you watch this, which I assume you will, because you got to try to make sure that your interview is better than his. Like there's going to be some degree.
He's going to make sure I stay in line. I don't get too out of
control. I'm going to get a message later on, be like, "Hey, can you cut that part about?"
Perry's editing this right now in his head.
Yeah, he has already hacked my StreamYard, and we're actually off YouTube. We don't know it yet.
Live editing, as we see. He's a live producer. But yeah, like. Just you could tell me whatever, like I don't care. Just don't steal my pictures.
Right.
Don't copy my pictures. And we're not even good. We don't even have to get into all that. But like, yeah, just if you're gonna steal the same style of pictures that I take, just give me credit. I don't care. You could put a Twinkie on a Glencairn all day, but at least say, hey, I probably saw this on Whiskey Mutant's page first.
Yep. Yeah. And so I absolutely stole like a good portion of your content last year, but I actually said it because I was pairing Halloween candy with different whiskeys just for a live stream.
I love it.
But I was like, I 100% stole this from somebody else.
That's all I want.
This is not an original idea.
Go
see the pro on it.
We're all pairing food and everything is nothing that is just like excluded to one page or anything like that. That's not it. It's like if you blatantly, and this goes for anybody's content, if you blatantly rip off somebody's, like, at least have the decency to say, hey, like, this was inspired by this person. If if you whatever, like, if you make a podcast and it says my podcast and it's about bourbon, at least say
my podcast of bourbon.
My podcast of bourbon. I would, say like, that we were inspired by this bourbon podcast.
I may be renaming my podcast now. That's maybe what's going to happen here.
But yeah, just if anybody can steal anything and do that, but like give credit where credit's due. Somebody, you probably saw that from somebody and like just give them a shout out. Something like that. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I've got my notes are just, it's shambles. Like
that's what I bring to these things. Like shambles.
This is how I take notes. Like if you were to look at all of them, there'll be pages and it's just a bunch of like circled and lined through things.
You're like, he's probably going to start talking about this. And then I totally went to like page 4 and started talking about that. And then I swung back to like
the original questions are up here. They're on the screen. I put them in a Word document so they're easy to read because I don't write well.
Just like this guy.
Yeah, we've done maybe 3 of them and there's about 72 over here, which is perfect. That's what good looks like in these environments. So I was talking a minute ago about how I made my children watch Star Wars in chronological order. And I assume you've probably done this at some point. Mm-hmm. Is there like, what's the movie or movie series that you're like, all right, kids, you're going to sit down and watch this. And I don't care if you don't like it or not. We're watching it from end to end because it's just a piece of your own nostalgia.
I would say recently anything that they are like, oh, I want to go watch the new Marvel movie. And I'm like, boy, have you watched the first one? And he's like, "Well, I remember we watched it." No, you got to watch it. So anything new that comes out that's like got like a little bit of a history, like they're getting better. They're getting better at not asking questions during the movie. It's not perfect. It's not perfect,
Uh-huh.
but they're getting better. So I'm always like, hey, if we're gonna watch the new Thor or whatever, we're gonna watch, Endgame, we're gonna watch Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. When we went to Disney last trip, and there's a fly in here.
It's that
Um,
time of the year.
and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna ride Guardians, aren't we?" I was like, "Yes, I'm making sure we ride Guardians, but you all have to watch Guardians of the Galaxy first." So it's like that. Like I
Yep.
would say Star Wars is the biggest one. They all got interested in Star Wars, so we watched all that. Indiana Jones, Ninja Turtles, every variation of it possible. Now Dash is watching Dragon Ball, so I'm like, you got to start from the beginning, or you're not a true fan. I just shame my kids into all this stuff.
I we live parallel lives. Right? I'm wearing just
Yeah,
Goonies. That's
Goonies.
one of the shows. That's one
Never
of the
say
shows that we
die.
had to watch. That's what
Baby
the bottom
Ruth.
part says. This is the very part. So Ninja Turtles,
Yes.
right? So in order of best to worst, you have 90s animated series,
Okay.
90s live action movies, current
Okay.
live action movies, current animated series. And I think there's an animated series in the between.
Right.
It was like more of a digital version, but I'm not going to talk about that. What's the best?
See, it's hard because it's changed as I got older. Younger Eric, it was obviously the cartoon because that's just what I grew up on. But I would say Turtles 2 as top movie at the time because I didn't. Now I've read the original comic books and I've seen stuff, and I realized, Turtles 1 is badass movie. Like they're serious. Like Raphael's
Yep.
like screaming, David, and stuff like that. And you're like, holy shit, he just said a cuss word.
Yep.
But at the time I was like, man, this is kind of weird. Like, why are they so serious all the
It's
time?
real
And
dark. Like that first movie is
it's
pretty
dark.
dark.
And so at the time I didn't like the first one because in the second one you see them transition to, they come in, they're doing the jokes in the mall, the bottom of the mall, doing like Donatello's doing the like thing, and you're like, this is Ninja Turtles. They, they're goofing off. You get Toka and Razor in there. There's more mutants. Shredder's all crazy. Super Shredder. Like that movie, I probably went through like 3 VHS tapes of it. Like I just wore the hell out of that movie. So I still probably think that's my favorite. I would say between that and 1. I love 1 now that I get it. So maybe 2, 90s cartoon, 1, the newer stuff. I don't know if I even want to even think about that. There was an animated series on Nickelodeon that came out a few years ago that it was more kind of serious. They had the white eyes and stuff like that, and I love that. That's above the new movies, like the whatever we call the new stuff. There are some good stuff in the new ones. It's just I don't know. You ain't got need a redheaded April O'Neil in a yellow jumpsuit, and that's all I need.
There are certain core things that you can't change, and that's one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to keep that. And maybe here's where I think they missed, is I think that reporter should have been played by the girl that's in the new Jurassic Park movies.
Oh, Dallas.
Yes.
What's his name's daughter? She directed Mandalorian. Bo
Yeah.
Dallas Harper.
Yeah. So that because she's the look for it, at least in my mindset. Like that's where you missed. You could have done this, but you didn't.
Yeah.
The new ones, I'm absolutely out on.
I'm
absolutely
not
out.
I'm gonna have to strongly agree. So that's all. I'm gonna leave it at that before I get in trouble.
So what's the weakest point of your man?
No. What?
So you like Ninja Turtles, you like pop culture largely. What is the comic book that has never been made into a movie that should be? Whether it's animated or live action, one way or the other.
Comic book that's never been made into a movie that should be. That's a tough one.
And it could be a series. So I'll
Yeah.
give you mine, and mine was broken recently. because I'll never like I the original Spider-Man series that came out. I loved Spider-Man as a kid. That was my comic book. You know, like X-Men, Batman, solid. Spider-Man, absolutely. When they started walking the original series, they get to Black Suit Spider-Man, they get to Venom, and I'm like, we're on the edge of carnage. We're on the edge of carnage. Like that's the storyline that I want. And then they rebooted.
Now look
They ran through a couple more, and then they finally get to this Carnage. So mine originally would have been, I need to see the Carnage comic movie, and then they made it, and I still need to see it. Like not that movie. I just need to see a different version of it because that was not a good version of it for me.
Yeah. I thought I was going to get this, and it may still happen, but there is one of my favorite comic book writers is Mark Millar. And we've seen his movies so far. He did Wanted. He wrote the comic book Wanted. We got a horrible version of that. That movie is not great. Then we've seen Jupiter's Legacy, which it got canceled, which I thought was pretty good. If you've watched Kingsman, that was based off one of his comics as well. But he did one called Superior, and it was more of like a Superman type movie, but he spun it in a really cool way, and it was always talked about, and it's yet to happen. So I would say that's a movie that I would love to see. I would have loved to see, I love Logan. I love that. But there is a comic called Old Man Logan that is way different than that. And I would have loved to see, I don't think they could have ever made a live action movie of it, but I would have loved to have seen a live action Old Man Logan. I mean, there's like this like freaking inbred Hulks running around, and like it's like the wasteland, and like there's a blind Hawkeye that's running with him and stuff like that. It's crazy. Old Man Logan, the actual, not Logan, but Old Man Logan would have been great. There's the same guy who wrote The Boys comic book. We've obviously got the show, which is amazing. He did a Punisher run that would have been an amazing, and I think they took elements of it for the Punisher show, but I would have loved to seen almost like a straight like right out of the comic to movie or a thing. But they tried to take elements of all that and put it in the movies that we've already seen, and it just didn't work. I would love to see a more focused, more right out of those pages of that. That was one of my favorite Punisher runs. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else.
Is there a comic book that has had more attempts at a mainstream movie that have completely failed than Punisher? Right, like because Punisher, we've got what the old Dolph Lundgren ones, and then we've got the mid or like the early 2000s Punisher. Like we've tried to bring Punisher in so many times, and I enjoyed the series, the Netflix series. I did enjoy that far more than any of the movies, but like, it's been given so much attention while completely failing. In my mindset,
I don't think any of them have ever been great. No, I think the series was the best, and now you just see his logo on the back of pickup trucks. So I don't know. We should probably just refrain from anything Punisher these days.
Yeah, that and usually the people that have it on their trucks don't really understand what he was actually about.
There's usually ball sacks hanging from the bottom of the truck too.
Yeah, truck bumper nuts. I remember when bumper nuts became like this huge.
So I'll refrain. Thing. I probably don't need to see any more Punisher unless it's like directly involved with like Daredevil and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking over at my comic books right now. I'm trying to think of anything, and there's so much stuff that I would love to see. There's a comic book that I read. It's called Sex Criminals. That would be great. I don't know. There's just so many. There's so many, and there's so many.
I'm selfishly stealing a list of comics that I want to go out and like now purchase and read over. Like there's undercurrent here.
Yes.
Is that like is that going to be like released in actual theaters, or is that going to be released in like certain bookstores that only people 18 and above are allowed to go into?
Yeah, it depends on how they take it.
How true to form that they actually run.
How true to form they do. Yeah.
So X-Men. You have some degree of an affinity for X-Men.
Uh huh.
Who's the worst X-Man?
The worst,
The
Cyclops.
worst. Cyclops for you?
Horrible. Yeah, hate him.
I hate Gambit so much.
What's up, Cheech? See Cheech there.
How's it going, man?
I don't. I like Gambit. I don't like the thought of him being played by Channing Tatum.
I just don't like
But
the character at all. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I made a playing
yeah,
card explosive and I threw it.
yeah,
Congratulations. And I know there's more to the character than that, but it's
right,
like this entry that happened in the early to mid 90s of a
yeah,
person that I could almost not care less about.
yeah, yeah. I've never liked Cyclops. I thought he was an asshole. But you know, he's the guy. He's got to be there. You know,
Right.
I understand, and I'm always going to accept him. But I want to see, you know, I want to see Wolverine and him fighting each other, and I think that's
Well, it
just
makes sense. If like Wolverine's your guy, then you're required to not like
yeah,
Cyclops. Like you
yeah.
can't be
And
Team
you're
Cyclops.
required to love redheads.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's appropriate, right?
Yes, exactly.
Is
I
this
mirror
attachment
my
to
life like
Ninja Turtles
everything.
and your attachment to X-Men gives you
Yeah.
this like redhead undercurrent. I
Yeah, and
love it.
Lois from Family Guy.
Yeah, but you can't relate to Peter though. Like you can relate to
And
the other characters, but not Peter.
and Peggy Bundy.
Okay. Yeah, I follow you. And
Yes.
she did it.
And Jane Jetson.
The character.
And Wilma
Okay, no,
Spencer.
look. So there's a problem with Miss Jetson. Like, have you ever seen this thing that's on the internet about Miss Jetson?
I don't
So
know.
there's this age differential between George and Jane.
Oh yeah?
He effectively married her when she was 14, based off of the chronology of
Lord.
that
Somebody went
series. This is the
what?
culture we live in today, Eric. You know people are going to dig that deep. They found some dirt on George Jetson. He
I
married a
thought you were going to say
14-year-old.
something about him and Rosie the robot. Just like,
No, I mean, like we
I
know
think,
that's a thing. Like
yeah,
it's the future. Like
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
robot.
it's acceptable.
So your wife is a redhead. You introduced this, right?
Oh yeah,
Um, I've heard you say before that your wife indicated when you guys were first kind of interacting that she thought you were a poser. Is
yeah.
the
She
correct
thought I was a
statement, right?
skateboard poser. Yeah, she thought I was a poser. Like she
I
thought,
can I can relate to this because for the first couple of years that I knew my wife, she didn't know what my name was. Like we interacted at the same parties on a regular basis, had like real conversations, and she didn't know who I was for like a couple of years. How did you overcome this like poser thing to submit yourself into her life?
I invited her to watch me, one of my bands, the band I was in play, and from then it was history. Like I think she genuinely thought that like I was nothing but like pranks and like rude comments and stuff like that. Because I would run in to school and throw my books everywhere and fall and trip, and I would scare the teachers, and they would, you know, and that was the first impression she got on me. Or like somebody dared me to jump on the table and sing happy birthday to their like they're like so in
Class
nursing.
clown versus class comedian, right? I
Yeah,
think maybe you and Perry had this
yeah, we
conversation where
touched
like,
on that.
yeah, you just doing class clown stuff, which
Yeah,
is there's nothing wrong with, but I guess I can see the value.
yeah, but they told me to jump up on the table and sing happy birthday to somebody, whether we knew it was their birthday or not. And I fucking did it. And I was like, so that's the impression I was making on this hot redhead that's sitting there in front of me. And I genuinely was like, why does she think I'm a poser? Like, of course she would think I'm like that. Look what I'm doing. But it was like,
Adult Eric understands it.
yeah,
Teenage Eric didn't get it.
yeah. So it was like, you know, finally it was like, oh, I found out what music she likes, and she came out to the show, saw me play, and so I kind of started toning it back a little bit around her. I was like, oh shit, I go, you know, I gotta play a little safe here. April's in the room, and then we eventually just started hanging out more, and here we are. But yeah, she would, like I said before, she would get Jim Beam Black and Diet Coke, and we would walk around and just freaking hammer Jim Beam Black in one hand with Diet Coke in the other. And that was, like I said before, my first taste of bourbon, I would say, that I could, well, legally say.
Right.
There was
Yeah.
some other random stuff when I was younger, but that's another story in itself.
So
But yeah, that's how it went. And then we just finished school together, and we kept hanging out and doing other things together. And here we are. Now we have 3 kids, and we're married.
so is she your cooler? Like, like if you were to think about, like 80s and 90s movies, Patrick Swayze goes in Roadhouse and plays the cooler, the guy that like
Yeah,
tones the environment down. Is
yeah.
that what she did for
I
you?
would say so. I would say so. She's definitely the cooler. Like she keeps me in line, brings it all together, and here we
Mhm.
are.
Do you feel like you married up?
Oh yeah.
Okay, same. I'm just trying to draw the parallels
Oh
here.
yeah. Like I'm always like, this is the Fred Flintstone complex right now. The hot redhead, and then there's Fred Flintstone. That's me. That's me in April. I
You
have a
know,
Fred
you
Flintstone
you're
complex.
making a really strong point. Like the prevalence of redheads in pop culture, specifically in
Yeah.
animated pop culture, versus reality, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of prominent
I am a
redheads,
live cartoon. Yeah, I'm
but
just a living
there's not
cartoon.
that many in real life. Like, why is that? This is a new thing.
There you
Here's
go.
my new rabbit hole. Why did
See,
redheads play so prevalent?
that's what and like, this is off topic, but that's what I really respect about you, is because in the group chats and stuff, like I'm like, if somebody asks a question about something, I'm like, fucking John is gonna know this question. I feel like you are the whiskey community, like secret agent, like get the scoop. Like you're the Dick Tracy of fucking like whiskey community. It's like
I'll
you
take that. Movie aside, Dick Tracy movie aside, Warren Beatty aside, I'll
the
take that.
Carmen San Diego of
Redhead.
yeah. There you go. See?
See?
But like I feel like
Yep.
you're like a journalist, and like you just know, like what was this about, or what's this, and it's like John's gonna know, he's gonna be on
It's
there.
I've tried to collect information because I'm not a super smart man, but I can remember things, and
Yeah.
so it's can I overwhelm someone with information,
Right.
and I want to know things, and that's why I ask questions. That's why we have conversations, and
Yeah.
that's what makes this whole thing super interesting to me. Is that I would rather like I had 15 questions written out, and I've written out probably 45 more because as you talk, I'm like, oh, this is a thing I'm interested in exploring. Now, the
Right.
one about April, that one was one that I had wrote ahead of time. I'm like, hey, this is a place I want to dive in because I can draw parallels here.
Right.
But I asked Perry this, right? So you and your wife, and damn it, if David doesn't do this on a regular basis, David Levine of
Oh Lord.
Whiskey Ring Podcast,
Sorry.
but we're sharing guests on a regular basis. Like he'll have somebody and I'll have somebody, and
Oh
we'll
yeah,
flip
yeah.
flop back and forth. And he'll get somebody ahead of time. So he already touched on this, but I asked Perry way back when, and I'm gonna ask you now too, because it's a question that I want answered. You and your wife like to do this. You guys go to Disney.
Yeah.
You enjoy trips to Disney.
Uh-huh.
What is it about whiskey people and Disney? Because you've got the podcast guys, you've got Perry,
Yeah.
you've got to a lesser degree, not you to a lesser degree, but to me to a
Yeah.
lesser degree. Like there's this group of people that are like absolutely love the shit out of Disney, but are also like whiskey tubers or whiskey social
Yeah.
media people, whatever. Like, what is the thing? Why is this the case?
I feel like it's part of it is I don't know. As far as like you go, like, did you get to go to Disney or anything when you were younger?
My parents, we went, but we went as the requirement of between 0 and 8, we were really, really poor. Like,
Yeah.
my mom was going back to pharmacy school. My dad was managing a Captain D's in Lexington.
Right.
So our house smelled like shit. We lived in married housing, which had a lot of international students. So it smelled like shit because dad was working at Captain D's and the people below us were Indian and cooking Indian food. And so this is like how I grew up. Well,
Gotcha.
then, mom finishes pharmacy school and we've got more means, and they're like, oh, we have to check the boxes off. Let's go to Disney. Let's go do these things. Let's go do these things. They didn't have that degree of attachment. It was another visit to a theme park.
Right. It was just like something. Okay. So I never got to go to Disney growing up. I just like kind of like you, like my grandma raised me. My dad wasn't around. My grandpa passed away. It was just pretty much me and grand. And so we didn't get to do a lot of things. Like a lot of the trips I went to were either school trips or with friends or something like that. So, but I loved Disney growing up. I loved Disney. We had the Disney Channel because we had this big ass satellite dish that my grandpa like pretty much built almost, and he left it there. And like I had like all the channels, like the
Mhm. You
channels
get the rotator knob to turn the
yeah,
satellite
it
dish.
would turn the
Yep.
whole dish. I was watching stuff I very much was too young to be watching, and it's probably shaped a lot of my life.
Yep.
But I love the Disney Channel, and there was one of the Muppet movies. They go to Disney World. Love that. I would just watch that all the time. Started, Clubhouse, Disney, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, all this stuff. So it was like I just had this love for Disney, and as you get older, I feel like a lot of people, like, they start doing the stuff they loved when they were younger. I don't know. I feel like we're in a time where, like, it's okay to love the things you loved as a kid and
Mhm.
make it. And I think that's one of the main reasons. Like, me and April both, she was the same way. She never got to go. We always wanted to go. So we knew we had to go, and we were going because we really wanted to go. But I know that's not specific to everybody. But I would say, I think it's like, I want to say it's like the attention to detail that people who love whiskey, um, the same detail they, you appreciate the grain in it, you appreciate
Mhm.
the aging, you appreciate what people put into it, and you go to Disney, and it's one of the most clean places. No matter where you're standing, you see the detail in the corner of an attraction. You see one little thing that's like, oh my god, look, they put that there. Everything is so detailed, and you just appreciate it, and it's like the most, like, it's so fun. But at the same time, it's so fun to just walk around and just look at, like, how things are made, and like what it like the cracks in the wall. Like, those aren't
Mhm.
cracks because it's old and messed up. They put that there. They weathered this. They, like, I was watching a thing on Animal Kingdom, and like they brought in, like, actual people to build the roofs in some of the African nations, that so it would be exactly like it was, because
Mhm.
they wanted it to be real, and then they weathered everything. And, like, it's just the detail. I think when you appreciate something like whiskey for what it, how it's made, and the time it takes to do it and to do it right, you appreciate things, whether it's, maybe you're not a Disney person, but this or that. But I think it's the detail in everything that, along with my nostalgia and not getting to do it, and then just falling in love with being in that place. Like, we're, I was talking to you, you're going soon. We're going back, taking the kids for the Halloween party as well.
Mhm.
And it's just, I think it's the detail. I think people just appreciate that. And, like, uh, I don't know. Is that a good answer, I
I
guess? Or
think
is
I think both of those are fantastic answers, and I mean, it doesn't really matter what I think. Like, it's your answer, but adult Disney is a relatively new thing. Like,
Oh,
this
I
is
love adult Disney.
there was a subset of people that were absolutely invested in Disney as adults about 15 years ago, and most folks from the Bible thumping South are not going to be fans of that particular subsection of people.
Yeah,
Doesn't bother me in the slightest. That's cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine. Let's come on, everybody hang out at Disney. But the intentionality and the attention to details for storytelling, I think you're exactly right. I think that nails it, at least for me, is that it's as simple as if you stand at Pirates of the Caribbean as a ride,
hmm
or Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it,
I say Caribbean.
you don't see any of the other worlds that are
No,
around you. You're immersed in that
yeah,
particular portion of the environment. Um, and they build it in such a way that, with very few exceptions,
uh-huh,
you don't see parts of other
right,
spaces, and so
yeah,
you're not taken out of it. And so you're taking what people experience as a movie. You go into a movie, you sit in a dark room, and you're wanting to be transported to that thing. You want to fully invest. If you're a movie person, that's what you want to do. And they've always kind of not had the ability. You can do 3D movies, but it doesn't connect in the same way, and you're still missing the idea of smell, right? And Disney has smell under control, whether it's
yeah.
cooking food. I mean, I assume you've been to other theme parks before,
Oh
other
yeah, I've
thrill
I've
attractions.
I've puked in Kings Island.
They all sort of smell like hot garbage,
Oh,
right?
it's
Like,
horrible.
at a certain, if you go in the summertime, you're gonna smell hot garbage, because
hmm
you have, let's just say, 10,000 people in the same place generating a high quantity of trash. It's hard to avoid it, but Disney has built it in a way where you don't get that sticky liquid that's on the ground
Yeah,
everywhere. At every other theme park,
yeah,
intentionally clean. You're not jolted out of the story they're trying to tell by reality.
Yeah.
Like, the reality that jolts you out is somebody complaining about a long line or whatever, things that they can't control.
Right.
And they still control that in a certain way. I don't know. It's a severe storytelling mechanism that, thinking about the people who thought that deeply to make it, is like, holy shit. Like, a group of people sat down and were like, we can make this happen. And I appreciate that, I think.
Yeah, I do too. And it's one of those things where, like, if you've never been, it can be overwhelming. But I think if you really enjoy it and you want to go back, there's ways to do Disney on a budget. There's ways to do everything possible. And then there's ways to just go and enjoy it for what you want. Like, I think that's why I love it so much and why we go so much, is because you can do a trip where it's like, all right, this is like, we're doing everything. We're balls to the wall. We're, rope dropping everything. Or you can go and be like, we're going to take a day and we're just going to visit all the resorts and have lunch and dinner in different resorts, because you don't have to be staying in that, but you can still enjoy it. So, or you just want to go and like have a weekend and do the food and wine festival. Like, there's just so many options you have with it. And it's not, and I know people who've never been are probably thinking I'm crazy, but like, it's not just like, I don't know. And maybe this is just me because I love it so much. It's just not like a trip to a theme park or an amusement park. It's so much more.
If you treat it that way, I think that's the recipe for not having fun with it. Because, that was the thing whenever I was a kid, it was, how much can we get done in these 5 days? And what I found, this is my advice. Anytime someone's like, I'm going to go to Disney, I'm like, if you have kids under the age of 12, don't try to rope drop for 5 consecutive days, and don't try to do everything. Pick out 3 attractions that you absolutely have to see, and everything after, per day, 3 per day, and everything else after that is icing. It's bonus. Don't try to do more than 3 consecutive days, because what I found for our family, and I could be off base, but everybody I've talked to has been in a similar vein, is that if you all day park on day 1, 2, 3, by the time you get to 4, that's when everyone hates each other in the family and nobody wants to be around each other.
Yeah, you need one resort day at least, just to swim and eat and refresh, and then you're ready to go for your last day, and it's your last day, so you want to go all out on that day. So yeah, I agree. We always try to do a rest day, or at least half a rest day or something like that.
And if you don't want to do a rest day, then just only go for 3 days and go back again a year later for another 2 days or whatever. And you don't have to do all of the parks in one run. Like, Disney's not, contrary to what some folks in Florida might believe, Disney's not going anywhere anytime soon. Like, they're there. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Pick out the things that are most important to you and go take care of that and enjoy it, and don't, the exhaustion is what makes it not fun. And that's what I experienced as a kid. And we went, one of the first trips that my wife and I took before we were married, that was with my family. My family was doing my brother had kids that were a certain age. It's like, all right, Lana, we're all going to go to Disney. And so she and I were engaged at the time. We went to Disney as adults. And that was the weirdest experience, because we had both gone as kids. And, you take your kids to a theme park whenever they're 7 or 8 years old, and you're like, don't get out of my sight. Especially in the 80s. Like, everybody's going to get kidnapped. Like, you know what it was. Like, we were all getting kidnapped.
Yeah, everybody was.
I thought kidnapping was going to be
kidnapped.
Right. Because that's what the news told us. Like, maybe only like 6 kids really got kidnapped from a creepy van, but we all knew about it. And they were going to give us drugs and our candy at Halloween, like all of those things.
Yeah, razor blades in there.
But when we walked away, like, who's giving away free drugs at Halloween, number one? Like, who's like, I'm going to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of fentanyl, and then I'm going to just give it freely. Like, that's not how it works.
Won't even know what happens to it.
But we walked away from my family and we both felt broken, because we're like, we're supposed to stay with the herd, but we were adults. Like, I was 25 years old. I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do that.
Where are you?
Yeah. And we went and walked around, had a fantastic time. And I think that's what cemented it as, it does not have to be the other thing anymore. And we experienced adult Disney, which was a different thing altogether.
We always try to do one trip, just me and April, and then one trip with the kids. And once you've gone a few times, you kind of know what you like and stuff. So it's okay to like plan around. Like, maybe you don't want to go to Animal Kingdom this time. You don't feel like, if there's a new attraction or something, of course we're going to go.
Right.
But you can, experience it all one time, go big, go all out, and then if you okay,
Right.
we don't necessarily need to go
I
to
know that we're
this.
going to ride Haunted Mansion at least 5 times because
Yeah,
that is my wife's favorite ride of all time, and it is what it is. We're going to ride it a bunch. Like
yeah,
that's the thing for us. We're pushing in. Okay, so it's afternoon. It's after 12 o'clock your
it
time,
is.
right? We have a thing. We have a pairing. We can't avoid that, right? So you've already poured, right?
I just poured.
You just
Oh
poured. Okay,
man,
good. We're not beyond that. So we're on the same thing. And
I love a good like been up all night and it's just like nothing going on.
so you worked last night.
No, I did not work
Okay.
last night. I'm
Okay,
just
because that was going to feel like
I did
absolutely
I no, I
terrible.
felt like I was up all night because I just
Gotcha.
can't sleep I can't
Yeah.
sleep at night very good.
Well, your circadian rhythm's screwed up now
Yeah.
because you're
But
you're working.
I had I had a little bit last night with dinner and stuff like that, and then tried to sleep and then just watch some TV and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
getting up in the morning, getting, stuff done, and then that first like smell of like bourbon like is just refreshing.
It's refreshing. Now it's not quite noon here, but that'll be perfectly fine.
Hey,
So
usually it's like 9 o'clock for me because it's like getting off work at like
mhm,
7 and then like doing a workout or something. And then it's like gonna have me a little pour and yeah, it's
right,
like my dinner time.
and that's usually is that when you and Perry usually record is like in the
Uh,
morning.
it's usually it's around this time.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
so
it's
Perry's not getting up at like 7 o'clock in the morning and drinking whiskey
he is dedicated enough, and I
that he
think he
would.
loves me enough that he would if I said
Yeah,
that's what we got to do. But no, it's usually like 1 or
gotcha.
something like that. Just enough time to get up, get going, then enough time before everything starts and kids are home and all that. So
Yeah, and so I guess the whiskey we're drinking, like I only have it because of you. So that's why I
oh,
wanted to kick this one out here. It's like,
oh
the Wilderness Trail. They kicked off their 8-year bottled and bond. There was no way I was going to be able to make it for drop day. And luckily, Eric was like, "Hey, I feel sorry for you enough living out there in the far western reaches of this shitty state, that I'll take care of it." And
hey.
then you had to pay the price for it afterwards, where people are like, "I can't believe why didn't I know about all of this?" And you're like,
Yeah, yeah. I was like they'd set a 6 bottle limit, and so I had enough people that were
"Right,
including myself. And then all of a sudden, like people were like, "Why didn't you get it for me?" And then I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I felt bad, and I went back and got
yeah."
it for more people. So
Yeah, like I had intentionally not said where I got it from because I was like, man, I hope nobody would be like, oh, this guy, whatever.
this
And
guy.
then it just sort of I don't think I was the one that said I got it for you. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. People got
Anyways,
upset. People got
people got
upset.
upset.
You know.
Ruining whiskey.
I can't believe you would do that. And I think you guys, I haven't done an official review on this. Not that my review matters one damn bit, but it's
No, okay,
fantastic.
hold up. You need to stop that right there, because I'm going to say right now, I'm going to reverse the tables here a little bit.
Mhm,
You don't give yourself enough credit. And I saw that whenever you did a barrel pick with us,
mhm.
you went to New Riff and we picked the meetup pick, and that was your first barrel
Yep.
pick, right?
Yep.
And you the notes you had were great, and you were like, and you stuck to your guns, and that's what I
Mhm.
liked because you were surrounded by people who had been on barrel picks before. And me, I remember my first barrel pick, and I almost felt like I would start listening to everybody else, and I would be like, oh shit, like I'm not like I don't know if I should say what I got. And you straight up said the ones you liked, and even if it wasn't what we all agreed on, and you're fine. I think you have a great palate and you do good reviews, and I just want to let you know that like stick to your guns and keep doing what you're doing because yes, your opinion matters, dude. Like you do good stuff.
I guess, and maybe I'll couch this a little better. It only matters to the people it matters to, right? Like
Yeah,
if somebody thinks you're stupid, it doesn't matter. And when I'm saying it doesn't matter, like and that's why I felt comfortable sticking to my guns. Is I like what I like,
yeah,
and I'm going to say it. I'm also going to defer to the people in the room that are more seasoned. They have
yeah,
more expertise. Y'all pick whatever. This is what I like.
right,
Everybody else is huddled around a different one. That's
yeah.
fine. Like,
I
and it's
just
not that I dislike that one. I
right.
just like this one because
I
it's
I just
far different.
appreciated that you weren't like just trying to like say what everybody else like.
Mhm.
I like that you had that opinion and you said it because it was like because I in my head I was like this is his first barrel pick and I hope that because barrel picks are one of my favorite things about whiskey, like the
Mhm.
community and the pairing and all that. But there's just something special about barrel picks, and so I knew it was your first one, and I was like, I hope he just like he feels comfortable, and he says, and like, and you did, and I enjoyed having you there,
I
and
have a tough time being a yes man for anything, and so if I disagree, I'm going to. I'll
yeah,
do it as politely. Most of the time, I'll do it as politely as possible. If it's family, I'm not gonna be polite. Like if
yeah,
it was like my mom and dad were in the room, like nah, this is stupid, you know. Like
yeah.
but for people that don't necessarily know me, and this is like the first time you've ever seen me in real life, probably gonna like tone it down a little bit, but I'm probably gonna give my opinion too.
Yeah,
So
but yeah, stuff like that though, like your opinion matters. Like especially like somebody like me who talks to you all the time and stuff like that.
mhm.
I do take your word. So
I
that's all I want to
appreciate
say.
that.
Sorry.
No. That's it's a fair statement. But this is probably going to end up in one of my top 10. Everybody's got to make a list at the end of the year, right? Like that's required. It's whiskey
Uh-huh.
tubers and
Oh yeah.
podcasting. Like you have to
Part
make a
of it.
list. This stays in the top 10 for me. Absolutely does.
Yes,
It is
it's
everything I wanted it to be. And that's the thing with like highly anticipated releases. Like, what if it sucks compared to what
yeah,
you want it to be? That's what we've seen with some other brands here
exactly.
recently. Like, there's high anticipation and it doesn't meet it, but man, they
Uh,
got it.
they got it, and being like, if I could turn the camera around, I can't even count the number of Wilderness Trail single barrels I got over there. Like I'm
Mhm.
such a big fan of them, and but you go into it like just open. And it's like what's going to happen? Like I've got single barrels over there that are not the greatest. I mean
Mhm.
that's just how it is. But yeah, the excitement and the feeling of it just being everything you wanted it to be just elevates everything. And it's just like, yeah, it's top 10 for me right now. Could be number one. I've got some other things that are kind of floating around there, but like there's not hardly anything. And I said this on the podcast when we reviewed it. I had to reach to try to say anything negative because we were saying so many positive things about it, and I really
Yeah,
couldn't.
and you don't want to be like, oh, we're straight up, fanboying
Yeah,
Wilderness Trail, and so they can do no wrong. They can. It just, in my impression, they didn't in this
no,
release,
I was stretching for
right?
anything, and it was like, I mean, if it was $5 cheaper, but then I'm like, it's $5. Like, what am I talking about? And so then I just gave it like a 21 out of 20, and I was like,
Right.
yeah, I gave it
And I think that's fair. But I get that. Like you don't want to
right.
overhype
Mm,
because you sound like a fanboy, but you also don't want to oversell it where somebody, because I'll never forget. So I like stand up comedy. I was watching a Lewis Black stand up some years ago, and he was talking about, like, oh, there's a bunch of you here that are my fans. Thank you for being here. And like a bunch of you brought friends with you, and I wish you hadn't done that because you're obviously my fan, but they may not be. And
yeah,
now I've got to figure out how to like make it funny. And there are people that you may convince to go get this that then maybe they don't like it.
no,
Now, if they
no,
don't, I
that's
would
true.
challenge, why are you even here? But that if you overhype it, then everybody's like, oh, well, they don't know what they're talking about because it
Yeah,
wasn't good for me. And that's I don't care if they think I don't know what I'm talking about because largely I don't. Like we're all just shooting from the hip here. But I don't want to convince somebody, like we were talking about earlier. Don't want to convince somebody to buy something that they hate.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, in my opinion and what I like and my palate and everything, like it's damn near perfect. So,
Mhm.
we were talking about doing a pairing, and I was thinking, and you mentioned the 8 year, so I was like, what can we pair with that?
Mhm.
And I don't know what the notes. We don't have to go into too many details, but when I pair, I either like to elevate something. Like if you get a really chocolatey thing and you want to elevate it, you get something that has a lot of chocolate notes in it, and you just make a chocolate, chocolate, chocolate.
Yep.
Or like I like to mix things up. Like I get a lot of like berry
Mhm.
in this bottle and a little bit of peanut butter at times. And I was like, man, like I want to make kind of like a peanut butter and jelly candy with this. So that's why I was like, but I don't want chocolate. Like I don't feel
Right.
like it needs chocolate. So that's why I said we should pair the white Reese cup.
Blown out there. Yep. I'm with you.
So in my head, I was thinking like the white Reese cup almost has like a marshmallowy, like the white isn't like really white chocolate to me. It's almost like a peanut. Have you ever had a peanut butter roll candy? Like
Mhm.
it's more like that to me. And I was like, man, imagine putting like a little bit of like grape and like strawberry and that. So that was my focus and my thought on this pairing.
So I think this is spot on. Absolutely. And to echo what you're saying, so when I smell it, I get like some graham cracker, a good like vanilla creaminess to it that exists. But then when you taste it, mine's not red berry, but mine's like red berry candy, like just that overly sweet red berry, not like I went and picked a cherry off a tree, but this merges them together. And I don't want to say it gives it a peanut butter and jelly for me. I don't, because I'm missing the breadiness of peanut butter and jelly.
Okay.
But this is what we
thing. It's just like anybody's notes. Like our palates are different. So I think if I can get like the main thing, if I can get like the main gist of the pairing, then hopefully it's decent enough to where somebody can pick something out and make it their own.
No, it's there. And so whenever I was a kid, instead of just doing peanut butter and jelly, my dad was real big on like, we take, a spoonful of jelly and a spoonful of peanut butter, put it in a bowl and then mix that up. And maybe sometimes you add in a little bit of butter because, hey, why not? Fat kids got to eat.
Okay.
And
did you ever have the goobers? The jar of goobers that were like all mixed up?
Yeah, but see, I don't. Goobers was usually grape, and strawberry jelly was the thing in our house. Like we're a strawberry jelly house.
I love strawberry jelly.
Grape was you only bought grape because you couldn't get the strawberry off the shelf, or you keep a jar in the cabinet for when you run out of strawberry and you're not going to run to town because it's not like 2 minutes down the road. It's a whole tin. But
my great grandma made homemade strawberry jelly that I bet you would
see. That's where it starts, right? Like everything out here. This is the other thing. So like gardens are really, really trendy right now for people to have. But when I was a kid, everybody had a garden because we were poor. And it was a way to get
working in the garden. I hated
exactly. It. Yeah. And now it's like I built a greenhouse for my wife so we can have a garden and she can start plants way early and it becomes like this like hipster thing. And so it's super obnoxious.
Be like, oh yeah, well, did you get freaking your hands freaking cut up because you were trying to use a tiller when you were 5 years old? Probably not. Try that, hipster.
Listen, if you have never been barefoot running a tiller with a rear tine tiller, so your feet are literally just inches away from
like there's this thing. It's like, this
is me barefoot walking behind it as a kid. Like, this is a thing. So I appreciate that. But this gives me that. I don't know what it is about mixing peanut butter and jelly together that makes it different than a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but it does.
Yeah.
And I'm here. That's where I am on this. And I started doing that with my kids. My wife had never seen it before. And she's like, what the hell is this? Because it's not an attractive look. Like peanut butter and strawberry jelly mixed together doesn't turn out into anything beautiful looking.
No.
But it's fucking delicious.
Dude.
This is that.
Have you ever added bacon to it? Oh my God. It's so good.
Listen, I came from a family that sometimes a snack was 2 vanilla wafers with a pat of butter between them.
Yeah, snacks were a pound of bacon. Like that was a snack growing up. Well, I was like, and Mountain Dew, and and then for dinner it was like, whatever the most amazing homemade food you could ever have. And it's like, what? How am I alive right now?
Just because it's something about how old people cooked that was different. Because I was, both of my parents were, mom was going to college until I was, 7 or 8 years old, and then became a retail pharmacist, which is there's 80 hours of your life gone every single week. So my grandparents raised us, and I spent a lot of time eating old people food, just eating old people food through and through. I don't know. They keep people alive for some just ridiculous way. And now I'm not gonna be able to do a pour over because there's a work place here, and if I spill it in it,
you got to have practice to do a proper pour over. Won't you?
I've done a lot of dipping, but I can't. Like the pour over always ends up with just whiskey everywhere.
That's great.
Maybe I'm too uncouth for this. I don't know.
That's good, man. Well, good Thank you for inspiring me to do that, because you inspired that.
I think you nailed this, and I don't know that we could do any better. And I was like, you know what? Because I know I get red berry off of this. I was like, I've got this Eggo waffle over here that is in a Pop-Tart form. I was like, maybe it'll be like putting strawberry jelly on top of an Eggo waffle with syrup. But
when you sent me that this morning when I went to the store, I went.
Did you pick one up?
I got a whole box of them. So if
have you tried it yet?
I'm gonna be pissed. No.
Okay, so I haven't tried it. I actually warmed this one up. I usually don't warm up Pop-Tarts, but I warmed this one up for the first try.
I usually do too, but I'm in the basement and it's just I can't do it right now.
Yeah,
if it's a good Pop-Tart, this is some advice on a Pop-Tart as somebody who loves Pop-Tarts and have paired
Mhm.
Pop-Tarts. A good Pop-Tart is going to be still decent cold. And then it's just going to be even better heated. But like
Right.
you can gauge it based on what it's like before you heat it up.
You can make a bad Pop-Tart better by heating it.
Oh man, the Fruit Loop Pop-Tart was
Mhm.
the most hideous thing I've ever had in my life. It had Pepto-Bismol filling. It was so bad. If they you probably can't find it anymore because they just burn them all. But oh my
What
god,
does
it smells. It does smell just like. And that's the other thing. Pop-Tarts can be deceiving because
Mhm.
the smell, they can make them smell like whatever the fuck is on the box. But because it
Smell and
smelled,
taste are not the same.
no, it smelled
Yep.
just like Fruit Loops on
Mhm.
that one. And when I tasted it, the feeling was horrible. But this smells exactly like freaking frosted or maple syrup and Eggo.
Waffle. Yep. And then I was hoping that might sneak into this other thing because my oldest daughter will put peanut butter on a Pop-Tart on a waffle and then
Uh-huh.
put syrup over the top
Oh,
of
I'm
it to
down with
make one
that.
like that.
Yeah, I've had
And I'm
that at
like, okay, so maybe I can get some nuttiness out of this and into
yeah.
that. But if it gives you the peanut butter and the jelly and the waffle, that may be too far. It may not work.
Yeah, sometimes too much is not good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm taking first bite of this just to see what I'm going to gauge the Pop
Yeah, I
Tart.
want to see how you react to the Pop-Tart itself.
Okay. Okay. This reminds me more of when you have the filling, it tastes like the brown sugar cinnamon Pop Tarts.
Yep.
I'm not mad at this, and I'm actually just going to dunk this
Now, are you
in here.
going more crust side or more filling side in your dunk here?
Well, I'm using the side that I bit off of, so
Yep.
it's kind of in the middle. Like I've got like the crust and the filling. Okay. I am not mad at that.
Now, make sure you don't chew too close to the microphone
No,
because
you'll get
whiskey
bad
bros.
comments. Yeah. You'll get bad comments about my snacking too close to the mic. Dude, I love. Okay, this is good.
I still think that the Reese's is the right move here.
I don't think that. So the Pop Tart is like a special flavor. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's anything like special about the Pop Tart.
No.
But this is a solid pairing because I feel like this is a inferior version of the brown sugar cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not bad. Like I can handle
No.
this. I will be okay eating this box of Pop Tarts.
Yeah, and it gets a little the whiskey with it gets a little ethanol-y to me. Like if I just do a mouthful of both at the same time,
yeah,
the I don't know, maybe it's the white chocolate toned down the ethanol a little bit because it's
yeah. And
got that
I think the
thickness.
Pop Tart doesn't have enough like punch. Like there's not any flavor in the Pop Tart that really like stands out. It's
Mhm.
kind of just like it's there.
Yep,
But the Reese's like you can get a lot of like
I can get diabetes on this right here. Like I can just eat enough of these, and I'm gonna tell you when you suggested this, I generically have a high degree of disdain for white chocolate. I don't
Really?
like white chocolate largely.
There's only certain
White,
ones I like.
well, white chocolate's not real. Like it's not a real thing.
Right. It's not
It's,
chocolate anymore.
it's
But
almond bark. But
no,
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna trust the master, the master whiskey
I had a whole
mutant of
bag of
pairing.
these and they're almost gone.
Yeah, and my kids love them. I don't do a ton of white chocolate stuff, but this is a thing that can make me like white chocolate without a doubt.
Yeah. Not as good as sexual chocolate.
No, I mean,
I'll say that.
yeah. Man, we never talked about this. You've got some merch you need to sell, right? Like you got some stuff. I've got like 3 or 4 shirts in here, and I try to walk the line of like, don't be the. I did this. I had Aaron from Smoke Wagon on, and I wore my Smoke Wagon shirt while I was talking to Aaron, and I usually like don't be the guy that wears the T-shirt
It's
of
like
the band
when you wear
that
the
you're going to
band.
concert.
Yeah.
And that's a piece that's from that. Did you watch PCU the movie a long time ago?
Yeah.
That's where that's from. Like he was like, don't be the guy that does that.
Yeah. That we were
So I didn't
we
wear my Whiskey
always
Mutant
made
shirts
fun.
here.
whenever we would go to shows like with bigger bands and stuff, and we'd be in the pit. Like if you had the I was such an asshole. If you had the shirt of the band that was playing, you were automatic targeted in the pit. Like you're like. So bad, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I've got shirts and I've got some glasses left, and I'm working on some new designs. But I don't want to order anymore until I've at least got this. So I've got a gray shirt. There's a white shirt and a couple of black shirts with different logos on it. You can go to whiskeymutant.shopify.com. You can. That's on. It's on my Instagram as well. No, actually, sorry. I will put the link back up on my Instagram right now. It just has the Eastern Kentucky flood relief donation thing on there, which is good too. Donate to that.
Yeah, I had to go dig it up out of my history because I was like, oh, I'm gonna hop over here and go look and see what it's got.
Yeah, see, I'm the horrible Instagrammer. I'm just the worst.
I'm with you, man. The only reason I have anything that shows up on Instagram on a regular basis is I was listening to a podcast with Kenny from Bourbon Pursuit, and it was a business podcast. It wasn't even like his. He was talking to somebody else, and he was talking about using this company called Zapier that does automations. And I work in software development. I'm like, okay, this is nerdy enough. I can probably do this. And so I went in and built automations. And so when an episode releases, I don't really do anything, just back end things make it happen, because otherwise I don't do it. I'm terrible at like liking things and sharing.
And I'm terrible at like all like the analytics and the algorithms and stuff. I'm like, I don't know shit for shit. Like it's like, you mentioned you were talking earlier, and we were talking about like YouTube views and stuff. I'm like, you're gonna have to ask Perry about that because I don't know nothing about it. So and that's how good of an Instagrammer, because I don't know anything about using the analytics on there. I don't know. I just put out what I want to and hope my friends like it and they get a good pop from it. So
yeah, and that's where I end up, because like I understand how to exploit the Instagram algorithm to gain popularity. Like there are certain things that you can do that will get you there, right? And this is what a ton of other people know as well. And one of the key things, like there's these groups of people, I'm not going to name anything, but there's groups of people that create their own incestuous group where they like tag each other and then they like each other's stuff. Yeah, it is an Instagram gang.
Join my gang. Shame this person in 3 times, and then you're in.
And then once you join, there's an expectation that you're going to like everybody's stuff, and you're also going to share content at least once a day. And to do that, because they're all working together and they're inflating their counts, that's what happens in social media. I can't. I don't have the time for that shit.
I better get a cool jacket if I'm doing all that work.
Where you get a cool hashtag and a notification that you're a part, you can put it in your profile, like I'm a member of this group.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, there's nothing that would prevent you from just doing it anyways and not being
just start my own Instagram gang.
Just join all of the rest of them without actually joining. You just put them in your profile.
I can just start using there.
There are people that use the tags as well, but it's a way that they can manipulate the system. So it's I can't.
Oh,
this is just a fun thing for me. Like I just sit in a room and talk to myself sometimes, and then hopefully,
you have 2 Instagram accounts and you just follow yourself, and you're just like going back and forth.
I did. So I had a personal one before this became a thing, and I did not follow myself for a very long time because I just felt weird about it. I was like, but then I needed to. One time I needed to follow so I could see if what I posted was showing up right, and because Instagram was acting weird. And then I followed it, and I was like, this just feels weird. It feels wrong.
Sometimes you just gotta get weird though, man.
But it helps out whenever somebody bans you. You can just move to the other account and then go harass them some more. Like
I thought about that on Facebook, because get kicked off there all the time.
And YouTube too. So I was giving Dan from Bourbon Junkies on his channel with where he does gaming. I was giving him shit one day, and he booted me, like from chat or whatever. So I just moved over to my personal account.
You're and was like, I'm back.
And it was all in good fun. Like it was a humorous thing. It wasn't like me being a terrible person. I think I commented because I think his shirt looked an awful lot like really cheap beach condos pillow on their couch. Like they always have that like dark color with like
it's always
like
got
leaves on it.
It's
got like it's exactly what it was. Is what his shirt was. And I asked
him. The frame of it's made out of like it looks like fake bamboo and stuff.
Rattan.
Like
it's rattan.
Oh,
yeah. They're on the lanai. So All right. I
Oh,
think I got through most of my questions, but there's still a ton. We're gonna have to do this again. I've
pick
got
one.
something in the
Pick
works.
one random question that has nothing to do with anything, and I'll answer it as fast as I can to close it out.
What did you collect as a kid?
Star Wars figures, but first basketball cards, and then movies.
What was the basketball card that you had to have?
I always wanted the Shaquille O'Neal rookie, the one where I can't remember which brand had it, but it was like it looked like an evolution of him dunking the ball. Like it was like his picture and then the fade out, and then he dunked, and I could never get it. And the card shop owner lied to me and said he never got it. And I saw a kid 2 weeks later that had it, and he told me which card shop he got it from, and I was pissed. And I held my first grudge ever with an adult when I found this out, and I didn't even understand what I was feeling at the moment. I was like, how can I hate somebody so I'm so mad right now?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one that, I mean, obviously I could probably go on eBay and get it now, but at the time there was no eBay, and I was just buying cards whenever my grandma would take me to a card shop or a gas
I'm not
station.
gonna lie. I am gonna go downstairs. I have a few basketball cards, and if the era is right, if I have it, I'll just send it to you.
It's like what, 91, 92, I think.
Yeah. So like I was into baseball cards, but you ended up at a card show. You ended up making a trade. You get some basketball cards, and so I have a varied collection of some Shaquille O'Neal cards and this, that, and the other. And so if there's one floating around,
Yeah,
I'll just send it to you.
awesome.
Because I have like this trunk. Do you still have all of your basketball cards?
Yeah, they're right over there.
Are you waiting for the market to come back and sell them, or are you going to keep them forever?
I don't know. I mean, money talks right now. Like I'm like, I'm not as sentimental about them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The bad thing is, though, I got a bottle of bourbon. It's like I ain't fucking selling that. But
no, you keep
I'm
that.
like, money talks, though, baby. Those basketball
Right,
cards over there,
because those
really
basketball
good.
cards can pay for more bottles.
Yeah, true.
And that's the plan. And from what I've seen, just keep your eye out. But what I've seen, it looks like sports cards are trending back up again in collectorship.
I've seen some random posts about stuff like that.
So I'm hoping for that, because I got probably like, I don't know, 50,000 baseball cards that need to go. They just need to go. And a bunch of them aren't worth anything.
And everybody just wants them graded. And I'm always worried about sending them off to get graded, because then it's like, what happens in the mail and all this stuff?
Well, they're providing no value to you right now.
True. So,
but does it really get you that much more money? Because you got to pay for the grading plus take on
shipping
the risk
and all that. Yeah,
exactly. Because I've gone through that. Like I have probably 100 cards that can be graded, but you know how much it's going to cost to grade 100 cards?
A lot.
That's I'm not going to invest that. I'm just going to buy more whiskey. That's what's going to happen.
Well, that's what we all do.
Yeah, this is the plan as it sits right now. And the interesting thing I had Aaron on, and it sounds like I'm just trying to name drop. No,
but he made awesome. A statement. I love his Instagram. He's one of the best Instagrammers.
He figured it out. And he works Instagram well, and I got to know him specifically around the barrel that got stolen. Right?
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yep.
Yeah, and so the smoke wagon bottle that was at the meetup was from that barrel. That was
I have it right here.
Yeah, so there you go.
I kept the empty bottle because I knew the story behind it. So
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, whenever I have this little box where I keep 2-ounce samples of different things that I think are important. And I was saving one because when I started this podcast, I made a list of 10 people that like, I want to interview these 10 people. And he was on it because of that. And I thought I had set back a 2-ounce sample from it. And then I brought it to the meetup because there's not many people that are going to appreciate this.
No, that was, I got to try it and I did appreciate it. And that's why when we were cleaning up and that was there, I was like, I'm keeping this. And I got it with the empty meetup bottle that I had everybody sign. So,
but I prepped for the episode and I was like, all right, I'm going to pull the sample out and I'm going to drink it with him. I'm going to say, hey, this is a thing. And then I pulled out the samples like, shit, I didn't save one. But he appreciated anyways, that guy has the thing figured out, but he's making a statement. And this is a thing for both of us to watch because we both do similar things. He thinks that in the next 2 to 3 years, anything over $60 in the whiskey marketplace, nobody's going to be buying it. That we're because of recessionary tendencies, because of whatever else. And then one of the guys from Penelope entered the chat and he thinks it's going to be closer to $110. And I'm sort of hoping that happens because all of those bottles that are around 150 that nobody can ever find, I want to find them again. And I don't care if the market is down. That's what I'll be buying. Like I can finally take them all,
Well, I will come to you for advice and people like you and Perry and everything, because I'm the one that's just like, what? I don't even understand half of this stuff. So
I don't know that I do either. I'm just trying to. I distinctly remember when whiskey was on its way up, and you would spend $60 on a bottle of Weller 12, which it was retailing at 30 at the time, but that was the secondary market was $60. And I was like, I'm not going to buy any. I'm not going to participate in this. I'm not going to do it. And I wish I had taken every dollar in my
now I buy a case
401k
at 60
and bought every single bottle I could at $60 because I'd be retired now. Like you're looking at like a tenfold growth of like there's no investment that does better than that. But that's also the weirdness of whiskey, how it exists.
It is.
Thank you for joining me. Do you have anything else you want to share before we drop off?
I don't think so. Like you said, Whiskey Mutant on Instagram. Check out our podcast. This is my Bourbon Podcast on YouTube and then Apple and Spotify over there with my buddy Perry. And then just thank you, John, for taking your time for lunch to sit with me and eat snacks and talk about comics and Disney and all that stuff.
This is the best way that I can imagine to spend a couple of hours. Is the main reason that I started doing this. I spent the first year just pushing out podcasts, so I kind of found my voice with the intent of I just want to talk to people. Like I just want to have conversations with folks because that's what's interesting, and people like you are part of the reason why this exists. So appreciate your willingness to just hop on and chop it up, and we'll see some more out of you. Like
I'll be back.
I'm working on a thing. We'll
that
see how that goes.
Behind this is amazing anyway. So I was down for that.
I 100% stole that background from somebody, and I don't know if it's Creative Commons. So maybe somebody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, you used my image." I'm like, "That's fine. It doesn't matter because I'm not making any money off of it."
They put whiskey. You put Whiskey Mutant logo on there, so I'll take the blame. I'll ruin it just like I ruined.
Well, I put my logo's on there as well, right?
Sure,
like they're both there.
I'll take the blame for this one.
Yeah, there's enough blame to go around. I'm gonna drop you off. I'm gonna hit my outro. Thank you for joining and hanging out and whatnot. It's always super good time.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in for this offering of the Embellish Podcast. If you enjoyed this, please leave me a review on whatever platform you happen to be consuming this on. Leave a comment if possible. Hit me up on social media, on Twitter or Instagram using Embellish Pod, and give me a follow so you can keep up with what's going on here. I can be found on www.embellishpod.com. All of my links, accounts, contact details, and so forth are there. And I'll be back again next week with another new offering for you. So until then, cheers, and thanks for hanging out.